So the last time I did a BBC, I talked a bit about the first of the four opponent powers, regret. And actually today I want to talk more about the second one. But first I want to add something to what I said before. Um, Earlier in the year, Venerable Pelgay and I were driving to the dentist. And I mentioned that I had a crown put on a broken tooth. And she asked, did that hurt? And I replied that, it was already hurting. And once I went to the dentist, then the process of the hurt going away was put in motion, so then it started to stop hurting. And I mention this because I've known a lot of people who put off going to the dentist when they have dental issues because they think it's going to hurt. And actually, it's already hurting, and they just wait till it hurts really bad before they go to the dentist. And they're avoiding the very thing that would remedy the pain. And I can see purification like this, We're not causing ourselves harm by looking into what things we've done in the past when we're, doing kind of taking stock of what we've done in the past and looking at the 10 non-virtuous actions. We're actually seeking a remedy for the harm that we've set in motion. And it can be very unburdening in two ways. It can be unburdening emotionally or psychologically now, but it's we're seeking to clean up and purify the negative karmic seeds we've set in motion that could ripen into very unsatisfactory conditions in the future. So if we're doing purification and thinking about things that we need to purify, and that makes us feel worse about ourselves, that's a very strong sign that we're mixing up regret and guilt. That because purification should be an unburdening, and regret holds on to something. It doesn't let it go. Where regret sees something as negative and doesn't want to do it again, hopefully. So that was just something that I wanted to add to that. And the second of the four opponent powers is sometimes called reliance, refuge, or restoring or repairing the relationship. And actually, I like all four of those different names for different reasons. There are two basic objects that we create negative karma towards. The three jewels or sentient beings. And so we need to repair the relationship with those objects. And whether we've done a negative action towards sentient beings or whether we've been disrespectful in some way towards the three jewels, we still need to repair our relationship with the three jewels, because the Buddha has given us advice on what to practice and what to abandon. And when we're doing negative actions, we're not in line with our refuge. We're taking refuge in a more worldly attitude. If you look at this in the context of the four truths of the Aryas, then refuge means trusting that we can attain the cessations the Buddha said we can attain, trusting that the path the Buddha taught leads to those cessations, and trusting that the cessations of the afflictions and cognitive obscurations will remove our suffering. And so when I have a choice to do a negative action or a virtuous action, if I'm doing the virtuous action because the Buddha said this is a virtuous action, rather than, and I'm avoiding what the Buddha said to avoid, that's really taking refuge in what the Buddha taught. And what does this mean in our daily lives? An example would be like somebody says something to me that I don't like. I could respond in kind and speak harshly to them. Or I could avoid such behavior because this is not in line with what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught that harsh speech leads to suffering, to unsatisfactory situations. Or I could respond my old habitual way and create the causes for suffering. And so this is where I see where even when I'm acting, when the object I'm acting towards is a sentient being, I'm still disrupting my refuge. I'm either staying with my refuge or I'm going against it in the way of staying with what I've been taught by the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, or not staying with that. And when I have done harmful action towards sentient beings, I need to repair the relationship with them. And if possible, this might include apologizing. Sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes that might not be possible, maybe because I don't have that capacity right now. And I don't need to wait until I do before I do some purification. But it might not be possible because I don't know the person anymore. The person may have died. I don't know how to find them. Or it could be a person that doesn't really want me to communicate with them anymore. And so sometimes we can do that apology mentally. And I actually, when I was doing a Nundro, prostration Nundro, I was looking at a lot of what I'd done in the past, and I sent some letters to some old friends apologizing for things that I had done. And these were, there was some situations where I think most everybody in the situation had some responsibility for things going poor. But I didn't mention that. I just apologized for my own side of things. And I thanked those people for being friends for so long. And I didn't ask them for anything. I didn't ask them for forgiveness. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't even give a return address, to tell the truth. Partly because I didn't want there to be any kind of expectation like that. I was working with my own mind on that. And when I wrote and thanked them for their friendship, I thought about that. I thought about the positive aspects of that, of why we had been friends for so long and how nicely they had treated me at times. A lot of times when we have things that we've done negatively, it can be that both sides in a situation had some responsibility for the difficulty. So part of restoring the relationship with sentient beings, I find for myself, is to restore my attitude towards them, to let go of any animosity I have towards them. Decades and decades ago, I spoke harshly to someone who I was having a conflict with, an ongoing conflict, and this was a very harmful person who harmed a lot of people in very, very serious ways. And I spoke harshly to the person several times. And I'm not going to find that person and to apologize, because I don't want that person to know where I live, to tell the truth. I do know where that person lives. I look up their criminal record and keep an eye on them. It was that serious of a person. I think if he knew where I lived, he might kill me. But hopefully not. Actually, I've done meta meditation with this person as the object and thought, I hope this person has had a lot of healing. I hope this person has made some progress and growth within. So I've changed my own attitude towards the person. And I've mentally apologized for the things that I did, for speaking poorly to this person. And their behavior was horrendous, actually, but that wasn't the point. Despite their behavior and their attitude, I regret my own behavior and my own attitude. And I wish that I had acted better. It might have been good for that person if I had. And this is a very important point, I think, from a point of view of wanting to work on our minds. From a worldly point of view, people often would say, oh, they started it, or they deserved it, you know. And this is a very dangerous attitude. It's a very common and dangerous attitude. An attitude that wants to justify my own non-virtuous actions because the other person was acting non-virtuous. And it gets in the way of developing regret. And it's not a very good attitude towards sentient beings, especially for someone who is aspiring on the bodhisattva, for the bodhisattva path. We learn to not let others' actions lead us into non-virtue, or not let their actions be a reason for us to have a bad attitude towards them. Despite anybody's current actions, appearance, relationship to me, all beings have been kind to me, infinitely kind to me in so many lives. And so, mostly in our purification practice, we voice this repairing of the relationship with sentient beings by generating bodhicitta. So usually we have the refuge and the bodhicitta prayer together. And so I don't know, that's how I see that second opponent power, about repairing my relationship with the three jewels and repairing my relationship with sentient beings. And not just, well, in how I see them, you know, an attitude of creating a better attitude towards them so that I'll have better behavior towards them in the future.